CRJ227. This is the first guide podcast. Um, I've kind of called them different things, but I'm going to do a video for this in addition to um, having the audio posted. I'm not certain that I'm going to do a video each week for this summer. For this course, I'll probably stick with the podcast, the audio. It'll be linked in the same place, and it's able to be accessed anywhere. You can be listening to it in your car, from your phone. You can download it, you can stream it, and you can use it to put yourself to sleep if you need to do that. Students will probably tell you, other students have had me, and many of you in this class for this summer have had me before. You can use this, in a variety of ways. But the point is, and the work that I put into it is to give you a very concise idea of both what our goal is for the week, what's expected of you for the week, and then, essentially a very pointed set of comments from me on the things you need to know on that particular topic for that week. It's essentially, if you think of sitting in a classroom for a typical face-to-face class lecture, within that class time, there are certain things that any instructor wants you to get out of that class experience. Sometimes we spend a lot of time talking around the highest points that we want you to take away. I work pretty hard to try to give you this in a typically short and concise guide or podcast. Something that typically never is longer than 30 minutes, and most of the time shorter than that. So it's not something that's going to take a lot of your time. It is something that you really owe yourself to, the time to listen to and pay attention to as we move through this course over the next 8 weeks. It's a very little amount of your time. And if you think about it, you'd be sitting in class for this course, if we were on campus, 6 hours a week. You're going to have 6 hours of work. But listen to this each week, and that work is going to be easier. Now, to give you some background, because many of you know me, but many of you do not. Like yourselves, I am an ICC graduate. My degree was in police science. That's the precursor to our law enforcement degree that some of you are working towards now. In fact, that guy's me. That is my mentor, Roy Wright, Doc Wright. Doc Wright started our programs. He's the founder of all of our programs, our criminal justice, law enforcement, paralegal, all of our programs. Doc was a police officer who eventually earned a law degree. Came here as one of the first faculty and started these programs. I started in law enforcement at 21. That's the first time I took an oath in that regard. I went to law school because of that man. That's my license from the Supreme Court of the United States. Licensed in all federal courts in the state and the all courts of the state of Illinois. I started out in that way and then went to law school because of that guy. And then eventually, I'll keep it to a short story. I was looking at teaching jobs, primarily looking to teach at a law school, but Doc was going to retire, and was an opening, and I applied and ended up back here at my alma mater. So I was a student like you, played basketball here, was a student, a graduate, police science. Some of those people in that photograph are friends, now retired. And I've been here teaching. I just finished my 25th year. In addition to teaching, I was in the private practice of law. I worked for the Illinois Attorney General's office doing criminal appeals. I was in the private practice of law, where, among other things, I defended police officers, and also I represented the two largest police unions in the region. I came here, as I said, 25 years ago and started teaching. I typically teach the law courses. Sometimes I teach intro to criminal justice, but typically, so here you'll see me in this course, evidence, which is a course you should take, CRJ230, and some of you in this course have taken evidence, and criminal law, CRJ225. I've been a hearing officer for the city of Peoria doing vehicle impounds and all sorts of property cases I did that for over 20 years. I don't do that for Peoria anymore, but I still am a hearing officer for Pekin, doing all of those types of cases, Creve Coeur doing all of those types of cases, Marquette Heights doing vehicle impounds, and East Peoria doing vehicle impounds. So I'm still doing those kind of things. And that means that sometimes if you're a graduate and you work in this region and you get a job in law enforcement, or if you're a paralegal and one of your clients, or you're working for one of the municipalities, you may have me in a case as the hearing officer. That's essentially the judge at a municipal level. So that's kind of my background. That's, how I got here and why I'm teaching this class. For this week, there's an intro assignment. There's a forum that is called the squad room. I call it the squad room in this course because that's where you will meet in law enforcement. It's where you'll go. You'll go to the squad room. You'll start your shift in a room with other people on your shift. So it's essentially that. For the people in the law firm setting, it's the break room or the conference room. So I asked that by Wednesday of this first week, you tell us a little bit about yourself, your major, types of jobs you hold down now, whether you have kids, significant other, a dog, cat, what you do when you're not at school or at work, and then what you hope to get out of this course. What's your goal? What's your goal for the course, and where are you going? What are you going to use this course for? Where are you taking it? And then attach a photo of yourself so we can see you. We can know who you are, know a little bit about you, because we're not going to be in the same room. And I think it's important that you all get to know each other and respect each other. So do that. Otherwise, this is going to be the place for general course or career conversations, questions, or discussions. So if it's not a question about what we're discussing in a particular week, but it's on a broader scale about the course or the career or the programs or something along those lines, ask it here. If you have that question, somebody else may have that question as well, or they may be prompted by your answer, your response. So look at that, and please get that completed by Wednesday of this first week. And then the first assignment, it has two parts. And, there's some reading. There are things linked that I expect you to read. You need to read those things. You can't complete the assignment unless you read those things. Currently, this course is only offered once per year in the summer. My feeling is this course should be mandatory for anyone who wants to serve the law or the justice system in any fashion. During the course, you're going to see firsthand several examples of why I have this very firm belief. This course provides the basis for all rights of individuals who encounter the police or the justice system. This course provides the basis for and the framework for procedure and policy that should be developed, taught, drilled, retaught, and expected for police and anyone working in the justice system. This and courses like this course were once a requirement and an expectation. I had at least 3 different versions of this course at ICC at Bradley University, and before I ever took an oath to serve the system. Of course, in law school, I had even more. It's possible, and it's great that many of you who are going the law enforcement route are seeking the law enforcement degree or certificate, and this is part of that. But people who get the criminal justice degree don't have to take and often do not take this course. They may not get much exposure to this until they go to the police academy and they have a short version of this. This is a course that everybody should take, and I hope you take it with that or in that light, that this is something you must have and need. I hope that eventually we'll return to this expectation, and our secondary focus for this summer will help us understand in the most serious of ways why this is the case. The way this course is set up, you'll have a discussion task related to our efforts to develop general knowledge of criminal procedure, and we'll build on that like a foundation. And then on that foundation, blocks that go from the foundation. We'll build this knowledge weekly, and we begin with an effort towards giving you a solid foundation as you begin to break down cases in the law. To that end, we're going to ease into this summer with 2 primary tasks. First, we want to be sure that you understand the difference between criminal law and criminal procedure. Now, I'm looking at the roster, my paralegal students in this course, and maybe all of them, but a good majority, understand the difference between substantive law and procedural law. So to that end, I provided a PDF file under course content, and I suggest that you not only read the document, but that you keep it, as it may come in handy in either your future studies or your career. Save, read, and keep this document. Now, criminal law is the what in the law, and criminal procedure is the how. What I mean there is criminal law defines what a crime is. A battery, for instance, is typically defined in criminal law statutes as an intentional, unpermitted, harmful, or offensive touching of another. Those are the elements that you must find if you're going to write somebody up, if you're going to seek to arrest, if you're going to determine that someone has committed a battery. You need the facts that show that. Criminal law is the what. It's what offense was committed. Criminal procedure defines who that battery might be discovered by, how the responsible person might be approached, how they might be stopped, detained, arrested, searched, and charged, etc., on down the line. So it's how we proceed once we determine that a crime under the criminal law has been committed. In this course, we focus on the how, specifically on the how as it relates to the rights of those who may be accused of a crime and the expectations of those who are sworn and entrusted to investigate, process, prosecute, and decide violations of the what? Of the criminal law. Now, to allow you to better understand and distinguish between criminal law and criminal procedure, I've also asked that you read a landmark case in this area. This is one of the first cases I remember ever reading or being asked to study regarding criminal procedure. It's one of the foundational cases of our modern day criminal procedure. That case is also provided under the assignment form. And I ask that you read and really take the opportunity to know that case. Case is Mapp versus Ohio. Now, part 2 of your assignment for this week is an introduction to our special focus this summer. It's actually a special focus that I've had for several summers now in this course. And I'm going to have it as a focus for this course, a special focus for this course, until it's not a heartbreaking issue, and that is the use of deadly force. I'll probably end up relating this story again at some other time, but if you're not familiar, when I say the name Laquan McDonald, Google it, and you should be and forever familiar with the name of Laquan McDonald. Laquan McDonald is a 17-year-old kid. He was, by all accounts, you can watch the video, and many of you may have, but by all accounts, he was intoxicated or high on something. Walking down the middle of a street in Chicago, not complying with police, but there were plenty of police. Not, in my opinion anyway, a danger to himself or others at that moment, when he was shot multiple times. The video, or the dash cam video, or the body cam videos, all the videos weren't released for over a year. And in fact, many of us, unless you pay attention to these things, unless you're in this business, this area, and you study it, you probably didn't know much about it until the video came out. As it turns out, the video came out around the same time as a friend was retiring, and there was a group of people, many of whom were still working or retired law enforcement, got together, and at what was supposed to be a celebratory occasion, we ended up looking at that video over and over and over and over. Nobody who was present, that evening would have drawn their weapon. The consensus was that, we as a group, and there was a group of police available, would have surrounded this teenager, this kid, and somebody would have made the move to try to subdue him and hopefully not get cut by the knife he was carrying. He was carrying a knife. Most of these folks came into service before tasers. And that was one of the excuses. Chicago police didn't have tasers issued. That case haunted me. Um, some of you know, and if you don't, you do now, but I have three sons, two of whom look a lot more like Laquan McDonald than me. So, um, and that, you know, you need to go into these careers seeing people as if they were your brother, your sister, your loved ones, regardless of what they did, regardless of what they're doing. Does that mean that you won't arrest them, or you won't have confrontations, or you won't be put in danger, or you may not be able to avoid putting them in harm's way? No, it doesn't. But that's not what the police officer did in that case. That's not how we saw this 17-year-old kid who should not have been shot. Not once, definitely not 16 times. So that's when I started making this a focus. And as you all know, a year ago, we had George Floyd and other cases since. And so until such time as it's not an issue, we're going to have a special focus on use of deadly force. So I'm asking you to read a landmark case, Tennessee versus Gardner, to get a base for understanding most of the things we'll discuss regarding deadly force. After you read Tennessee v. Gardner, you should think about similar issues you have seen and read about in the media regarding use of force, specifically deadly force. I'm going to ask you to pick one of those recent deaths. We're even taking George Floyd, that was a year ago, and there are plenty to choose from since. Pick one of the recent ones, more recent ones than that, involving police use of force, and discuss that recent case in relation to the Supreme Court's decision in Tennessee v. Garner. Now, this doesn't have to be from Lexis in a case. This can be a news item, a news article, a verifiable news article that includes a link to that resource. There's no right or wrong opinion on this part of the discussion. That said, be sure to follow the expectations of the discussion rubric found on the course syllabus, and especially on deadlines and content. Schedule a time to do your research, to write your assignment, to check it for spelling, for grammar, for all the things that you'll want to project as you put your efforts out there for everybody else to read. Because to get the points, you also need to schedule time to read the post of your fellow classmates. Everybody's going to have different examples on a lot of these, and you need to schedule a time to read the post of your fellow classmates and make reply posts. Look at the rubric. It tells you all about that. You could have a great original post and you don't do that, you get a 0. So be clear on that. Be complete in your thoughts. Be respectful in your comments. And remember, our purpose here is to understand the expectations of the law so you can be prepared to go out and serve our communities pursuant to those expectations. Now, I see our graduates out in the field. I won't say that in all the years I've been doing this that I haven't seen people who I've questioned whether or not they should be out there. But for the most part, I can say that our ICC graduates are typically well prepared, that they do things according to the law, that they serve and protect their community according to the expectations of the law. This is interesting stuff, what we cover in this course. This is incredibly important stuff. You won't have a problem being bored or finding motivation to do the work, but you do need to schedule time to read, time to listen to these guides or podcasts, time to do the research, and then put those deadlines in a calendar so you have the time to go and read what other people posted and make your reply post. Put all those expectations in a calendar. It's the same every week up until the last week. So put it in your calendar. Give yourself a reminder. If you don't, before you know it, the summer term's going to be over. If you do those things, when the summer's over, you will have learned much. And if you do those things, you'll learn an A. Best of all, for me, and even though you may not realize it at the time, for you in the future, in these 8 weeks, you will be better prepared, far better prepared than most who serve our community in the law and justice system, and especially when it comes to use of deadly force or use of force. That's what we're going to do this first week. Like I said, you may only be listening to me hereafter. I haven't made that determination, but I'm happy you're here. I'm looking forward to an exciting and productive summer. If you need to get a hold of me, we can set up a Zoom meeting, a telephone call. We may even be able to go and meet at Poplar Hall for a face-to-face meeting if that's necessary. But stay safe anyway, and I hope you enjoy this course.